Pat Fortini is unable to put his hand up. He's working on a phone, so he'll just text me if he needs anything. And Jill will review the electronic procedures and take roll call.
Thank you, Councillor Parrish. I'll provide a brief overview of the protocols for electronic participation in this Regional Council Policies and Procedures Committee meeting. The people present in the council chambers are myself, Catherine Lockyer, Regional Clerk and Interim Commissioner of Corporate Services, our Chair, Councillor Parrish, and clerk staff sufficient to facilitate the technology for the meeting. We are conducting this meeting using WebEx. For an optimum WebEx experience, we ask that you take the following measures. The recommended meeting display view is active speaker video view or active speaker and thumbnail video view. If you are experiencing a poor Wi-Fi connection, please disable your video. If you drop off the meeting, please rejoin. And if you have difficulties, please contact your local IT department first for assistance, following the same process as you do for council meetings. You may choose to turn on your video and leave it on throughout the meeting, or you can turn on your video only when you are speaking. If you wish to speak, please click on the round participant icon on the bottom of your screen to enable your participant list, and then click on the hand icon located to the right of your name. Members who are connected to the meeting via the phone-in option, please send an email to council@peelregion.ca and your name will be added to the speakers list. When called upon, please unmute your microphone and proceed. And when you have concluded your comment or question, please mute your microphone and lower your hand by pressing the blue hand to the right of your name in the participant list. If you have any motions or amendments to introduce regarding the business on today's agenda, please email your motion to council@peelregion.ca. Committee motions do not require or do not permit a recorded vote. When the vote is called, the committee chair or myself, the clerk, will call for any objections. If you have an objection, please unmute your microphone and indicate your name and objection. If no objections are stated, the motion will be deemed to be approved. Should the meeting have any reason to move into closed session, though that's not anticipated on the agenda, I would review the procedures at that time. If you have any questions as we proceed through the meeting, please send them to council@peelregion.ca together with a request to speak, and we shall now commence the meeting with a roll call. I understand Mayor Brown will be late. Mayor Brown, have you arrived yet? No, Mayor Brown, you're not in our list. Thank you. Mayor Crombie.
I'm present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Chair Yanika.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Innes.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McFadden.
Up here, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Medeiros.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paleshi. Councillor Paleshi. We see you in our list, but we are not hearing you. So do send an email if you're having some troubles. Thank you. Councillor Parrish.
Here.
Councillor Sado.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Sinclair.
Present.
Thank you. And Mayor Thompson.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Parrish.
Thank you, Jill. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Approval of the agenda. The clerk has suggested that under 7 other business, 7.1, 2, and 3, we may get those questions answered when we do the final code of conduct review. If today's final review is done, we have a draft recommendation to go to council. Also, when we come to 5.1 is withdrawn. That has been settled, and we actually had our first proxy vote this morning with 1 Mississauga councillor carrying the weight of 2, and it went smoothly. So we don't need 5.1, we'll take that off. And 5.2, I'm going to ask Catherine a couple questions on that, but I'd like someone to, when it comes up, to move to refer it to the October 22nd meeting. I think we need a little bit more information. We've been through a tough morning, and it's better not to go into another difficult subject. So with those changes, can I have someone approve the agenda? Councillor Crombie, or Mayor Crombie and Mayor Thompson, all those, anybody opposed? Thank you. And I would like to welcome Jeffrey Abrams and Janice Atwood-Petkovsky, our Integrity Commissioners, Principals Integrity, who will present an overview of the proposed amendment to the Principals Integrity Recommended Regional Council Code of Conduct. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I am here, and Janice is in another window, I presume. You can see her as well. We'll be referring to the Code of Conduct, which is a draft code, which is on the screen at present. It does a couple of things. You'll see in yellow highlighting, those are changes which have been implemented since the last we spoke. They flow from our previous discussions or our simple amendments at the recommendation of the clerk to reflect the region's nomenclature on things. The blue amendments are more recent. They reflect the other items on the agenda, including the most recent one with respect to the process to resolve joint responsibility. And so we're in your hands, but I can walk through the blue amendments. If anyone has a concern with respect to the yellow amendments, we can speak to those as well. And that's probably the most efficient way to proceed through the draft code.
Thank you, Jeff. I would like you to walk through the blue because we have a couple of people on the phone. They may have their binders with them, but just in case they don't, I think the blue was referred very recently and has stirred up quite a bit of controversy.
Alrighty, so I will do that, and I'm just going to refer to my paper copy, which has the page numbers on it. So I'll refer to the page numbers on your agenda rather than the
Okay.
page numbers in the code itself. If
And
that's
Jeff,
helpful.
could you be cautious when you're moving your paperwork? It really makes a thundering sound, and we can't hear your voice.
I'm sorry. I just moved it to my keyboard. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can.
I'll be careful as I move pages,
Okay.
but feel free to admonish as we move on. So I'm on page 4.1-3, which has at the top general information. You'll see under item B, framework and interpretation. That's the first appearance of the blue amendments. And so you'll see the first one, simple amendment includes the reference to the regional chair as a member of council, but it acknowledges that a member's lower tier code of conduct will apply in respect of all lower tier municipal council matters. And then under paragraph 2 there gives us a framework for evaluating in some circumstances which code of conduct might be applicable. So obviously the underlying context and circumstances, particularly whether the member is clearly executing responsibilities as either a member of the upper or lower tier, or in rare circumstances, it's a joint exercise. That's the first bullet. The second one, the code of conduct under which a complaint has been filed. The third one, the jurisdiction with the most substantial connection. And here we're sort of borrowing from a legal principle called conflicts of laws. So it's this notion of what is the most substantial connection. And similarly, the next bullet, whether the integrity commissioner of the other jurisdiction is in a better position to dispose fairly and efficiently with the complaint. Next, whether the behavior complained of not being clearly aligned with one or the other jurisdiction is, in our opinion, in the opinion of integrity commissioners for both jurisdictions, that a public report to both councils would be warranted if in fact the complaint were to be borne out. And that is in reference to Councillor Sato's motion, which is also on the agenda for today. And then there's some commentary which you can read immediately below that. So we think that fairly responds to a couple of things on the agenda today, and perhaps I'll leave it at that. And if anyone has any questions, we can answer.
Are there any questions of any of the other members? Seeing none, I'm going to ask a couple questions just in review then. If you don't, as a matter of practice, start an investigation without a proper filed complaint, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if the complaint is filed with the lower tier municipality, and in your judgment, that's where it should be dealt with, unless, even if it's filed up here, you would then defer to the lower tier?
Well, I guess there's some permutations and combinations to that answer. So if we could use Mississauga as an example, we are the Integrity Commissioner for Mississauga. We are the Integrity Commissioner for Peel. And so our first response, looking at those bullets, would be, well, where was this complaint filed? That's
Okay.
one of the factors. You take all of those bullets on page 2 of the code on 413 together. Where's the complaint filed? But if the more substantial connection is to the other tier, or it could be more fairly disposed of at the other tier. In other words, where there's a clear line, it's been filed in the wrong place, we would work with the complainant to have the matter refiled at the proper tier. If it were a matter of Brampton or Caledon, then we would have to have a conversation with the Integrity Commissioner for the other, for which one of those municipalities, and it may well be the case that the matter is refiled there. In rare circumstances, we would either apply both codes or would work jointly with the other Integrity Commission.
Okay, thank you. I see Pat Sato, but I'm just going to finish one more question. Under any circumstances, would you ever take an Integrity Commission report from any of the 3 municipalities, and without doing your own investigation, recommend a penalty here?
No, we might look at an Integrity Commissioner's report and use it as weight. It might be the source of information, but we wouldn't simply rely on it to hold us bolos.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sato, I'm sorry I missed you on there.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, I'm in my car right now, so I'm kind of juggling stuff. I'm not driving.
Oh, good.
Because I have an iPhone and an iPad, both of them going. So actually 2 questions. I want to refer to the motion that I had put forward. I mean, it seems like it was last year, with the suggested wording to go in, and Patrick had sent me a suggestion for some amendments to that wording. So I wonder if he could speak to it, to just what his recommendations were for. It was just a little bit of a tweak on my motion.
Before, Madam Chair, just for clarity, we've seen that and we have integrated that into the blue
Right.
text you see today.
Yeah, no, I realized you had, and I think you had integrated the wording that I had put in my motion. Patrick sent me an email about a week ago, and I got really busy and I didn't have a chance to deal with it, and it had to get put on the agenda, so I told staff to go ahead and leave it as was worded. But I wondered today if Patrick, are you okay with the wording that is in the proposed amended code of conduct?
Some folks might be lost. Councillor Sato, what section is it under?
Section 1, subsection I. And then
Okay.
there's Section 1, regional chair, subsection V, and section H, subsection V. I think it's still those numbers, right, Jeff?
Well, no, the
No?
amendments you proposed were to the existing code. And what we've done is attempted to integrate
Okay.
the same concepts into the proposed code.
Okay, so Councillor Parrish, those numbers won't apply then?
That's right. We just figured that out.
I'm looking at my agenda on my iPhone while I'm on my iPad, so I can't find it.
But Jeff, you're convinced we'll be getting to that in one of the sections as we're going through?
Well, in part, the section that we're dealing with now integrates the concepts. If Patrick is online, I think he should comment on whether or not we've done service to what he's proposed.
Well, thank you through you, Madam Chair. It's a bit awkward in this respect that I had suggested some wording revisions to the councillor as the person bringing the motion forward. I did not, though, share with the integrity commissioners the wording that I had proposed to her. In my view, the motion as originally put on the table by the councillor had some difficulties associated with it, not all of which I think are necessarily addressed in the incorporation that's occurred here. So I feel awkward because I don't mean to be sandbagging the integrity commissioners at all. But there are, I think, further suggested revisions that I could draw to their attention or consideration, at least, beyond the wording which is proposed here.
And Patrick, that's what I'm asking. If you could share that, because we are voting on this today, on these revisions. And because of the timing, I was not able to let the clerk know the revisions to be included. And I knew also the integrity commissioner had already started integrating them. So I thought we could deal with it today.
Okay, I would say in general terms, I feel that the wording of your original motion, Councilor Sato, and I think in just reading now the incorporation being proposed into the code is too restrictive of the chair's freedom of action, so to speak. In that in my view, the chair has a statutory function to be representative of the council, which should only be constrained to the extent that he is dealing with a matter that the council must decide upon or has decided upon. And in those circumstances, I think it's reasonable to call upon the chair to make clear that he is not representing the council on a matter that council must decide upon and has not yet decided upon, or on a matter where he is expressing disagreement with a decision that the council has already made. But in others, sorry.
I can interrupt. I think the wording that the integrity commissioner put in place was very clear that on that, because it wasn't word for word, I don't think, Jeff, what I had put in. I thought you had massaged it to be clear that it was not as restrictive. It was basically saying that if council took a position, that the chair had to relate that position of council, and if the chair was giving a different opinion, he had to be very clear that it was his personal opinion and not that of council. So that was the full intent of my motion.
Yes. So to Chair Parrish, just for context, we're looking at a segment under framework and interpretation on page 4.1-3 and 4.
I'm sorry, 4.1 dash.
4.1-3 and 4, the paragraphs I just read through.
Okay.
Other amendments under Rule 7, improper use of influence, and Rule 10, the title of which is media communication, which also were intended to give effect to the Sato motion.
Yeah, that's on page 28.
That's the improper use of influence I have is on 4.1-23.
Yep.
And perhaps we could go to that next, and then with all of that information, perhaps there can be a determination whether our integration of the motions, the intent of the motions, are properly reflected in this draft, which of course is a different document, and some massaging was necessary. So if we're on on Rule 10, improper use of influence, um, and I'm just dealing with the blue text. As the head of council, the regional chair shall work with regional council with regard to those decisions or actions which have not been delegated to the regional chair by council or not provided to the regional chair by legislation, which I believe tracks the motion Councillor Sato made. And then we added, or which do not flow directly from the responsibility to manage the administrative affairs of the regional chair's office. We didn't want there to be a gap. That seemed to be a minor issue, just so that the chair had the ability to, order file folders or hire a person in the office without it being deemed to be outside of his authority. So that's the first paragraph. And then it goes on to say the regional chair, including when exercising the role of chief executive officer of the regional appeal, will only represent and promote publicly or make statements to external bodies, decisions entirely within the chair's legislative and delegated authority, or which are reached by regional council as a whole. The chair may, however, express a personal perspective so long as it is in compliance with Rule 10 media communications. Would you like me to go to Rule 10 then, at this point?
No, Madam Chair, I'm perfectly happy with that wording.
Yep.
I think it does express in better terms what I was asking for in my motion. So I think it covers it, and I think it also should allay any concerns that our region solicitor had that it's being too restrictive.
Are you okay with that, Patrick? Patrick O'Connor?
Sorry, I was muted here. I think we're into fairly nuanced discussion. What I would propose is that you proceed with the benefit of the Integrity Commissioner's input here and on the basis of their advice, but that I take the opportunity to share the wording that I had previously shared with Councillor Sato with them, and that if there is anything that needs further consideration or revision, that could be suggested to council when it comes finally to consider the recommendation that this committee comes up with.
And
Okay,
Madam
Patrick.
Chair, I'm okay with that. If
Okay,
Jeff is
Council.
okay.
Good, Councillor Sato, because what we can do is if everything else works out well today, we can be sending this to council as a draft recommendation. And then if there's any final tuning to do, we can do it at council when we approve it. Is that good with everybody?
And Madam Chair, I have one other item that I wanted to raise. Can I do it now?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder if the Integrity Commissioner could clarify something. It is not in the Code of Conduct. And this is actually to you, Janice. It was about a conversation we had whereby you had said that a member of council, it was to do with the Twitter concern, that a member of council cannot block a resident or a person, because you don't know if they're a resident, on their Twitter account unless they are, I think you used, unless they were using inciting hatred or whatever. But that's not in our code of conduct. So you and I had a good discussion on it.
We did, and we first of all, apologies. We absolutely owe you some additional commentary on that. It is on our to-do list to put some very brief commentary together with respect to when a member may block somebody on social media and what they really need to be aware of when they're doing so. So we were going to put together some brief commentary because there have been a number of sporadic decisions on that from the courts. So we thought we would put some helpful commentary together on that. And yes, we owe you that. We are behind. And when we do our commentary, we typically provide it out to all of our municipal clients to say, here's some commentary we think you could add under this provision.
So we would then add that at a later date into the code of conduct?
It really, we don't consider that commentary necessarily forms part of the code of conduct in the sense that it's there for, it is meant to be annotated and updated as things occur, whereas the code itself has to go back to council each time. The commentary, typically we provide it out to the clerk and council and say, we think this is helpful commentary that could be added into the code, but it's not amended into the code, if that's understood.
Okay, so there would be, when you have done that, then there would be an opportunity for discussion if we come to this committee, and we would have at a future date an opportunity for members of council to discuss it. I don't know if you've discussed it with any other members of council, so I was kind of surprised at it, as you know, and I think maybe other members of council who would like to would like further clarity on it as well.
That's an excellent idea, and we certainly would do that. What I guess what we try to do is, and it is it's our aspiration that we would provide meaningful commentary from time to time when these fact situations arise in other jurisdictions that we're aware of, and we can share that information back with our municipal clients. That's part of what we like to provide, and we certainly would make the opportunity to discuss at committee, at the policy committee or governance committee. We certainly, and it's ultimately up to council and the clerk of the municipality when they want to add in the commentary. We have not done a lot to date, to be honest with you. It's we have a short to-do list of things, and this is one of the things on it. But Councillor Sato, we absolutely would make ourselves available for that discussion. It is something that takes people by surprise, and it's not the first time that it's come up, but it's certainly the first time in this particular municipality that's ever come up.
Oh, lucky me. So could I ask, Madam Chair, then that we put that on a future agenda when the Integrity Commissioner has the commentary so that we can have a discussion?
Yes, ma'am. What I'd like to comment is this is kind of a living document, like some that change from day to day, time to time. So if we could approve the basics today, and then as each new item comes forward, we can just discuss that and add it in or not add it in, depending on what the Integrity Commissioners recommend. But if we can get through today's and get what's here approved, knowing that Patrick is going to give us a bit of wording to look at, and knowing that the Integrity Commissioners are going to give us something on blocking people on Twitter, they better hurry up and give it to me. I get into trouble there all the time. That would be what I would consider a living document that can change from month to month. Is that everybody else's understanding? The ICs?
Yep, that's fine with us.
Okay, and Councillor Sato, is that good with you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, what do we want to do next? We've done
So if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes?
Rule 10 on page 4.1-28
Yep.
contains similar language to the previous one.
Yes.
I'm trying desperately not to rattle my pages to keep it quiet.
Good.
Blue, members may communicate a personal position, so it refers to members, which we know because of the amendment on the first page, that includes the regional chair. Members may communicate a personal position on an issue in which the regional council has not taken a position, or that is contrary to position taken by council, but in doing so should make clear that they are not representing the council and or the regional municipality appeal, and where it is contrary to include an accurate recitation of council's position. So in other words, the chair and members are on the same footing with respect to communications.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Any comments from anybody or questions? Okay, and do you want to keep touching on the yellow stuff, or do you want to just concentrate on the blue today?
I was just going to concentrate on the blue. We can go back to the yellow. Those are items that
we changed before.
Yeah, and for the most part are just simple edits. So they incorporate references to regional documents by the proper name, that sort of thing. I think there's only one other blue edit, and that's with respect to rule number 3 and on page 4.1-15. And that's simply changing the the title to better reflect what's in the content of the rule. It used to read members' expenses. It now reads members' role in funding charitable community activities.
Okay.
And I think, just allow me quietly to scan my document. I think that's all of the blue. Yes, I believe that's it.
Okay, are there any questions? What I would like is a motion to approve the document as it is, with the idea that we're having two more pieces of information come forward at a future date. One from Patrick O'Connor with just some wordsmithing, and we'll look at that. And the second is the idea of the Twitter. Councillor Sato, would you move that? Okay, would someone else move approval of today?
Did you not hear me? I said, yes, I would move it.
No, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. You're in a car.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the draft recommendation that the Regional Council Code of Conduct provided as an attachment to the delegation from Jeffrey Abrams and Janice Atwood-Petkowski, Integrity Commissioners, Principled Integrity, be approved. And we have, as amended, the three blue blocks. And further, that the existing Regional Code of Conduct Bylaw 1-2017 as amended be repealed. And further, that the required bylaw to replace Bylaw 1-2017 be presented to Regional Council for enactment. So that's what you're moving, Councillor Sato, and we don't need a seconder. Anybody object to that going forward? Nobody? We're good? Okay. That is approved. And that takes us to 5-1 was withdrawn. And thank you very much, Janice and Jeff.
That's us. Thank
You guys,
very
I'm
much.
sure you have things to do. Really good job. Really, really good job. I think we're going to be showboating this code of conduct around town. It looks very good to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Now, under 5, I'm moving to 5.2. 5.1 was withdrawn. 5.2 is a review of the regional council composition. I would like to ask Catherine or Jill, whoever's comfortable answering, what the timelines are on doing a council review of the composition number of seats by municipality.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, there are different types of review of composition, and we were talking about the regional review, which is a requirement in the Municipal Act under Section 217 sub 6, which basically says that each regional municipality, is to review their composition every 2 terms, commencing with this term. The review is to be done within the first 2 years of the term of council. If the review is not completed within the first 2 years, it's still open to do the review in the 3rd year, but during that 3rd year, the minister also has the opportunity to intervene and impose a change of composition on the municipality. That review, whether it's done by the minister or by the municipality, needs to be completed by December 31st, 2021. It's the year before the year of the election.
Okay.
Then it's effective, that the new composition is effective after the 2022 election. So it will be effective for the 2022-2026 term.
So it would be the 2022 election?
Yes.
And the 2026 election?
Oh, no, the term from 2022 to 2026, that 4-year term.
Okay, so the danger is if we don't get it completed by December, the minister could come in and just do it.
Correct. And if neither are done by the 2021, the end of 2021, then nothing can be effective if we do it in the year of the election. The change in composition is not effective until the 2026 election.
Wow.
That's where you get that second election period.
Okay, so, and our next meeting of this committee is the 22nd of October?
No, that's a regular council meeting.
Oh, okay. When's our next meeting?
February 18th.
Now, is there, with COVID, I would assume a lot of regional councils are going to be behind on this. Is there any way of knowing if we're the only one?
I can reach out. I believe the Muskoka has not done theirs. York is in the process of doing it right now, and I'll have to check on the status of the others.
If we were to need to do something before the end of December, we could call an exceptional meeting on a Thursday if there's space?
Yes.
Because we really have nothing in front of us to do today with this. I think we need to look at the layouts of the other regions, especially ones that have done a review, how many seats they assign and on what basis. And generally, we need some background information. I don't know about the rest of you, but I can't operate blind on this. I think we need to have some stuff in front of us so that we can have a look at what other regions are doing and then maybe call a special meeting.
Okay. The timelines with the list of things that need to get done is included with the package, but it would be very tight to get it done for the end of this year, given the requirements of public meetings, the triple majority, et cetera. It would be very tight.
This kind of got away from us. We should have started it much sooner. That's my fault. Okay.
It can still be done next year. It's just that it can be done next year. It's just that the minister can also act next year. It doesn't take away the municipality's ability
Yeah.
to do a change in composition. It's or the review of composition. It's just that it could be done by either the minister or the municipality, and it is permissive, not required for the minister. So it's the minister may. It is not the minister shall, where the review of the composition is a shall.
Okay. So I think that takes a bit of pressure off. I don't think there's too many ministers that would refuse to take a report from a municipality the size of ours. So how do the rest of you feel? Pat, do you have a comment? And Alan? Pat first. Councillor Sato? I'll come back to you. Councillor Thompson, Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. We're going through that ourselves, but I'm going to tell you, with the public meetings and everything you're trying to do with COVID and everything that else is going on, I really think what we need to do is make this a priority next term. But that would be my recommendation, to get where you need to go now. I think we've got a lot on our plate. I think let's focus on what we can really do well and looking at this the next term.
Next term being after the next election?
Yeah, because I don't know if we're going to get it done in time, are we? Do we have
Well,
the time frame?
We have November,
For
December.
Public meetings, yeah, for public meetings to get it, well, we got to have it to the province by September, right? We got less than a year now.
Catherine?
If we can do it.
Just a
I
second.
don't know.
December.
We have to the end of this December to get a report in. Then we have to the end of next December to still get a report in, but the minister can fool around with it. It's
And
not a scientific term.
Get a report in. I'd just like to clarify, if you don't mind, the process has to be completed.
Yes.
Which means the triple majority, the public meetings, so the initial report, the triple majority, the public meetings, et cetera. All of that needs to be completed by December of this year, to exclude the possibility of the minister intervening, or December 31st, 2021.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I personally don't want to leave it till after the next election. That's way too far in the future.
Well,
We've
I
got
just didn't
15
think
months.
We had runway. So if we got 15 months, that's different. But I didn't think we had the runway to do it. That's where the impression I was getting. So.
Yeah, no, thank you, Alan. I've had it explained to me 3 times and it doesn't sink in. It's not an easy concept. Patrick, did you want to say something?
Thank you.
No, he's.
I was just going to say, we could do the process, but I think getting all three municipalities to agree will be very difficult. It may require the minister coming up with a formula on their own. I'm not naive about the fact that there are different perspectives on this issue, and so I think it would be very surprising if we had a triple majority agreement on this. I think Brampton's perspective has always been we don't have our fair representation per capita for a city over 100,000. It's just not there. But we can raise our perspectives. But my hope that we can solve it within the region appeal is minimal. But we can go through the process. It doesn't hurt.
I would like to go through the process personally. Is there anybody else? Pat, are you back in earshot? Pat Sato?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I had to step away from the car. Yeah, I think we should be trying to deal with it this year. And given I didn't hear all of the conversation, but it sounds as if we do have time to do it. And who knows, we may be able to reach an agreement. So I think we should try.
I agree. Any other comments? I do have to compliment Mayor Brown on the snappy jacket he's wearing as he's being chauffeured around. It's a nice pale pink. He looks very dashing. Mayor Crombie, do you want us to proceed?
Are you soliciting my opinion, Councillor Parrish?
I am.
Yes, of course I do. I think, it is no secret that Mississauga thinks that there are changes that are needed. But I do agree with Mayor Brown that Brampton is growing and deserves more representation. And it is no secret that Mississauga believes that Caledon is overrepresented. Sorry, Mayor Thompson, but that is just the fact because it doesn't speak to representation by population, which it should. So I think we do want to try to come to some sort of agreement by the end of the year, and if not, submit whatever majority report to the minister for, so that they can see the differing opinions from this council. Because as Mayor Brown says, it's probably unlikely we'll get consensus and triple majorities required to change it. So at a minimum, we need to go through the exercise and then issue whatever outcome majority report to the minister. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, did you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. Given the comments, if we could just get some information about what it is that this committee would require in order to open up that discussion. So what background, if you could provide some input into what information you need in order to open the discussion and either come to a resolution or not, but the information that you would need that staff can provide.
Okay, I had a look at it about a year ago. And what I did was I looked at all the regional governments. I looked at all their little sub-municipalities, the numbers, as Mayor Crombie said, rep by pop was what I was looking at, and the way they allocated their seats. Some of them let a municipality go right down to one seat by numbers. Others set a lower bar that you couldn't go below 2 seats. So if you could look at those, look at the numbers, look at how they allocate the seats, see if there's any updates of ones that have been filed. And can anybody think of anything else we need to look at next meeting? Alan?
Mayor Crombie's quite correct. When you look at representation by pop, that's definitely the factor. The majority of the municipalities are represented by area, and Ottawa is a really good mix on that. And I would suggest that we look at how Ottawa's formula came together.
Yep.
And one thing is, if you look at the other regions, they didn't do the full cut that we did. Like, we're made up of 5 municipalities. That's made up Caledon, and that's why you have the representation, where everybody else just has the mayor representing them, but they're much smaller. We're 741 square kilometers. We're 56% of the landmass appeal region. I understand that we need to go through an exercise, but I think Ottawa was one that I think we could definitely look at to find how they merged the two together to fit the need that you're looking for.
Okay, so
Hey,
Ottawa...
I think we need to look through it, yeah.
Ottawa's single tier, so we'll include that as part of the research.
But I'm just saying it's how they came up with the representation.
No, you're absolutely right. Michael Paleshi?
Yeah, I was just going to, I think, say what Mayor Thompson was saying, that, you know, since we're agreeing that we're not always all going to agree, we already know that we don't agree with just going forward with rep by pop. So I think the question that I would have to ask is, what other municipalities and in terms of, you know, work that's already been done in the past, how was it determined the number of seats at the table in terms of the lower tier and the upper tiers? So
Well, it
taking
would,
rep by pop out of it, what were some of the other ways to make up the numbers?
okay. And Michael, one of the things we could look at is what the recommendations were before the last election and how those were arrived at and how they turned out. Because we have a lot of new people here from Brampton. So it might be good to go through the history lesson as well. And then we're including Ottawa. We're doing all the regions. We're just going to get a whole bunch of data and then we will sift through it at our next meeting. But we all agree we want to have a good look at this, and we don't mind if it isn't done in 2020. We'll work way out in 2021. Perfect.
Yeah, so, Madam Chair, what were some of the other? I think the region had over the years hired outside consultants to look at the matter. What, through you to Catherine, maybe, what were some of those consultant, not decisions, but maybe recommendations or maybe reports that the region has gone through over the years?
Catherine?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Some of the considerations were representation by population. There was area. There were other considerations as well that I don't have at my fingertips, but what we can include in the materials that we will provide for the discussion at the next meeting of this committee will be the consultant's work from the last time we did this. The last time there was a smaller committee that was struck, and there was information that was provided to that committee through a consultant.
It was the three mayors and the chair,
And the
I
clerks.
believe. And?
The CAOs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, Michael, we will add in the work that was done last time. I can recall that what was mostly done by the consultants was they interviewed all of us. And of course, the answers were all predictable from each of the three municipalities. So we can get those reports as well. Everybody happy with the direction we're going? Okay, perfect. So would someone please move that we defer this to the next agenda, which is...
I'll do that, Councillor Parrish.
Okay, thank you, Sue. We're moving it to the next agenda. Anybody object? Okay, that's done. Next, we have 5.3 Regional Council Agenda Development. And I can't remember, I think I asked for this. Where is it? 5.3. Sorry, guys. Okay, report highlights are in here. Meetings are scheduled the second and fourth Thursday of the month, we all know. Committee meetings on the first and the third. Regional chair and executive leadership review agenda items at a council committee report review meeting. Regional council approves or amends and approves the draft agenda at each meeting. What I think we're getting complaints about is there's been, and we're getting it in Mississauga, so don't feel badly, that there's a lot of reports that are getting handed to us the day before or, you know, less than 24 hours before. We just instructed our staff that anything that isn't in by 24 hours before we move to the next agenda. And I understand there's time constraints, but that's what we did there. Does anybody want to make a comment here? Councillor Sato.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I was going to move a motion that staff be directed to amend the procedural bylaw, although it may already be in the procedural bylaw, that what you just said, the 24 hours, it's not acceptable to be getting emails and stuff on the morning of the agenda and, you know, or even the day before, because sometimes our staff don't have an opportunity to put them in the calendar. And since we're working remotely, it makes it even more difficult. So, Catherine, is it in the region? It was in the cities. We just dealt with this Monday at governance. In our city bylaw, it was already in there that there was nothing after 24 hours. Is that in the region?
Catherine?
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you for the question. Our bylaw actually says 48 hours. We don't always hold true to that 48 hours, and for that I apologize, but we do get the added materials out on the Tuesday before the Thursday meeting. It's not 48 hours though, because usually that a revised agenda goes out in the afternoon on Tuesday for a Thursday morning meeting.
Okay,
It's
so
logistics,
I would
yeah.
suggest, I don't see why I don't know what Brampton is, but 24 hours. I mean, we're meeting every week in Mississauga, council every 2 weeks, but I don't see why we can't set it at 24 hours. We're in council in Mississauga on Wednesdays, and I think Brampton is as well. And to be getting something, you know, delayed is not satisfactory. But I think 24 hours for staff would be acceptable, and I believe that's what we put in Mississauga, isn't it, Carolyn? Maybe you can refresh my
Yes.
memory. A lot of
Yep,
meetings
that's what we, yep, that's what we did. And the other, in this report, it says that occasionally there is an emergency or an urgent issue that we can always add to an agenda right at the time because we're all pausing, we're all doing it at the same time. And I think we have the same thing in Mississauga. So I don't have a problem with that. It's these big reports that come out. And sometimes it's the fault of your delegations. They send their stuff late. Then you just tell them, I'm sorry, you're going to have to do a quick presentation. We can't hand your material out. Catherine, did you want to make another comment on that?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify the 24 hours is actually, we're actually providing more notice than that. So it's not that you want us to change 48 to 24. You want us to say something less than, or sorry, more than 48 hours.
If anything comes in the last 24 hours, it goes to the next agenda.
That's what we do now, barring some few emergencies. What we send out is actually on Tuesday.
Okay.
Before, which is more than 24 hours before the Thursday meeting. So we send out the package on Tuesday, but our meeting isn't until Thursday. So I just want to be real clear because changing it to 24 is actually worse. Because right now it's 48 hours.
Well, then I like 48 because I get bamboozled with the 24.
So if it's the 48 hours that we're still finding, council's still finding some difficulties with, we actually need to clarify if you're saying there is no revised agenda. What you get Thursday is it. That's means that nothing that comes in within the week before the meeting will come to council's attention, and we don't meet again as a council. You don't meet again for 2 weeks. So there is not meeting weekly does make a difference. Meeting every second week creates a longer delay. And there may be circumstances, and I want to assure council that there is every effort made to make sure that there are not reports that are put on that could go to a different agenda. There's usually some time-sensitive reason why it needs to go to a particular agenda. But if the direction is that there are to be no reports beyond the original distribution on the Thursday, because the distribution goes out 1 week before the council meetings, then that's the direction that we'll take.
Okay, let me go through the speakers. I've got Paleshi, Sinclair, Thompson, and I think Nancy was waving her hand at me. Nancy, would you like to speak now before the other speakers?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair. Yeah, the clarification would be greatly appreciated. What I'm hearing from yourself and council is we continue the process. So on Thursdays, the agenda goes out. And certainly, as we always do, we make sure that as many of those reports are in the Thursday agenda. Then there is, we call it the late agenda that goes out on Tuesday, which, as Catherine said, is 48 hours prior to our meeting on the Thursday. And the times when we have delegations, which is mostly, as you said, where the issue sometimes comes up, is on Wednesday. So Wednesday morning would be 24 hours before. Any delegation has up until Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. to provide us their PowerPoint presentations. Otherwise, they will not go forward. So it's Thursday before, then the Tuesday would be the latest for reports. For any delegations, they have until Wednesday morning, and then Thursday morning is council. So,
Well, I almost think that if you're presenting a delegation to the regional council, which is a pretty significant thing, that you should have your material in the Tuesday, just like the rest of us. But let's see what everybody else has to say. Thank you, Nancy. Michael?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I think I know what Councillor Sato is saying. We have the same issue in Brampton, and we always complain about it, but we don't actually do anything. So maybe I'll look at the tapes of what you guys did there yesterday to see if we can implement the same. But I think, yeah, the confusion was with the reduction of time. We actually want to increase it. And I think maybe the problem will be solved if we kind of move everything back a day in terms of if you don't have the item on the agenda, so you have a Thursday, and then you move your late agenda items to the Monday, you move your delegations to the Tuesday, and then that gives us a little bit more time. So you got a 36 window, and then you have a 48-hour window for the delegations, because the delegations coming at the city as well, they're allowed in by Tuesday for council the next day, and often we don't really know what they're coming in to delegate on because it's such short notice. So that's something maybe I'll think about at the city to try and move that back a day. But I think here at the region, I think maybe the problem is solved with us saying, you know, you need to get it in on Thursday.
And move it all back one day.
If it's going to be late, then your last day is on the Monday. After that, there's no cutoff. But I still, Madam Chair, I want that emergency clause in there because we often, you know, have things that come forward that we have to deal with right away. And I think those coming, you need as staff, and Nancy, through you, or through the chair to you, you would need to bring that right to council on the Thursday to say, this is a very important item, it needs to be dealt with, and then kind of talk to us about it at that day through either you or the chair.
And we do that in Mississauga now, and
yeah.
we don't abuse that. It's usually something very urgent. The other thing too is you meet Wednesdays, we meet Wednesdays. Sometimes something comes forward from those councils and it's urgent. So I think as long as we're all being sensible and reasonable, I think what we're talking about is general run-of-the-mill reports. And I've seen Catherine nodding her head when you talked about moving everything back one day. So that might be the way to go. Ian? I'm sorry if I'm using first names. I just prefer to. There's hardly anybody in the room and nobody cares about what we're saying. Ian?
Yes, thank you. I support Councillor Peleshi's observations and recommendations. They're very good. And I've also experienced frustration at trying to catch up to the late coming items and getting them read. So that's a frustration. I'd like to maybe expand the whole idea, but end a comment to, I think it was the last meeting in July, and we had a long and very important delegation and presentation for the new chief of police, which is absolutely required at the time, and I think it calmed down a lot of the Black Lives Matter concern at that time. But then we rolled into long delegations from 3 conservation authorities talking about picnic bench opportunities or whatever. It really wasn't necessary, and they weren't held to the time limits of their delegations. And then what happened was Mississauga had to show up and crash the meeting with their chief planner to get some issues put in because there was a regional official plan review report. And frankly, not paying attention to the right things on this official plan review. So jamming a council meeting, I think that one made it clock out just less than 9 hours. And this isn't functional. So the length of meetings and what we're getting in them is a concern of mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Any other comments? I think, Michael Pileshi, do you want to move a motion that sets the times that you talked about? Everybody seems good with it. Catherine is good with it.
Yeah,
Michael?
I'll move that motion, but included in that motion, something that Ian touched on, maybe not included in the motion, maybe just staff direction, is when we're getting Peel Regional Police coming to delegate in front of us and we're, around that budget time, I think it's happened every year since I've been on council, at least, that we really want to dive into that and we want a fulsome discussion. Maybe we can start moving things around to accommodate, those Peel Regional Police items. Now I'm on the board of CVC and TRCA. I also like to have those discussions at the regional table too. I know that Councillor Sinclair is just we're talking about picnic tables, but often we're talking about a lot of other things. So if we can just ask whomever to look at, other opportunities for, the delegations that are going to be, we know that they're going to be running over 5 minutes. If we can kind of see what we can do there on a go forward. So I don't know if that needs to be added to the motion, but.
I don't think it does. I think maybe that's
Okay.
something we can leave with Catherine and she can ponder it and come back with a suggestion, because I know the former police chief, when she came in, that was a whole morning. And the new police chief tends to be more concise, our guy in Brampton and Mississauga. And I think if we were to say to presenters of substantial reports, you've got a half an hour. That forces them to tighten things up too. I think Chief Nish was less than a half hour this past year. So I think and then we have to suggest to our illustrious chair that he doesn't have to comment on everything. He can just let them have their half hour. So
Can I add that into the motion?
No, it's direction. But what we need to do is just your motion simply is to back up all those days by one day. Is that reflecting what you wanted, Michael?
Yeah, I think so. That's correct. Yeah.
Perfect. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Now we have 5.4, establishing a Region of Peel media release policy. I don't know if we need a presentation. Do we have anything anybody wants to? No, we're good. Did everybody read it? And seems pretty clear to me. Sharing key messages, timely information distribution. We're obviously not going to wait till the minutes get ratified in future. This policy looks good. It combines the policies of Brampton, Mississauga, and Caledon, so I think it's a good representation. Someone like to move it? Councillor or Mayor Thompson, anybody object to passing it?
Nope.
Okay, we're good. Thank you, Sue. Replacing 5.5, replacing the regional bylaw to indemnify employees and members of council. I found that hard to understand, but I'm sure somebody can explain it to me. Catherine? What's the key issue here?
The key issue, and I'll defer to Patrick if he wants to comment, but the key issue is to ensure that staff and council are indemnified in situations where they are found to have done known wrongdoing and yet were sued in any event, as well as protecting professional staff in case they are not in a case of negligence, but in a case of mistake, if they are sued by the council, because by working for the organization, you are exempted, so you don't have your professional insurance in place that would indemnify you. So the organization will be indemnifying the professionals within the organization. It's something that had been on the to-do list for some time to make sure that we tightened up the integrity or the indemnity for both council and staff.
Thank you, Catherine. Michael?
Sorry, I didn't take my hand down. My apologies.
That's okay. Ian? Patrick, did you want to make a comment? No? All good. Who would like to move the motion? No, you just did one, Alan. You can't move everything. Mayor Crombie? Anybody object? Done. Now, No communications, other business. I think all these were fixed up when we did the IC review. Okay, we'll have a motion to receive all of 7. Jennifer? All those not in favor, put your hands up. Good. We have no in camera. And if I'd have read this right to the bottom, I wouldn't have kept asking Catherine. Our next meeting is Thursday, February 18th, 2021, at which time all the information we've asked for on seat allocations will come forward. And we'll have a sparkling new agenda to keep us all entertained. Any comments from members that want to see something on that agenda? Everybody's good? Okay, moving adjournment. Councillor Sato? All in favor?